Organic Guy. Welcome to your weekly segment of Organic View. This is where we get to dissect some of the very interesting topics within the organic industry. And as usual, every single week, I have very, very interesting topics so that we can be able to dig into. And this particular week is all about happiness. All right. And it's one of those things we get a lot from our friends, our family, some of the people we are close to, right? And most of the conversation from a couple of few years has been about try and find something that makes you happy, right? And try to find something that you love, all right? Something that brings happiness overall. And it's something that I have suddenly been thinking a lot, and for this past week, it dawned on me, and I was like, does it make a difference? Is there a difference, all right, between organic farmers and conventional farmers? Are organic farmers happier, for example, than conventional farmers? And that particular topic, stuck with me for this all week, and I'd say that, I will have a look. What does science say? From me personally, from my personal experience, I do know, and I can say this with confidence, having spoken with, of course, a lot of organic farmers from, a few years that I've been, from the few years that I've had the opportunity to speak with organic farmers, I can say from anecdotal evidence is that organic farmers are generally happier people, right? It's not to say they're certainly happier than conventional farmers. I will say that, but I wouldn't have the necessary evidence to back it up. But overall, from the conversation that I've had with organic farmers, I will say they are generally happier, right? And these people tend to have some sense of purpose, some sense of vision, all right? And most of the organic farmers that I've visited, I usually ask them, the first thing that I ask them is, why organic, right? Why are you doing this? Because most of the time is that their neighboring farmers aren't organic farmers. And where I always try to find out what was the motivation behind it. And most often than not, they usually have a story. They have a story to tell. Either my kid was sick and I fed him organic for a couple of few years, and I saw it have really changed. Or I used to grow my crops conventionally and I used to spray a lot, and that meant me uncomfortable really to try and sell these particular products to people out there. So we have those range of stories, and this thing kept in my mind this week, and I decided to look up some of the papers that I have, and I suddenly came across a very, very interesting scientific paper that seems to back it up, seems to back my assumption, seems to back my hypothesis that I might have. And it's a paper that was written by Naoufel Mzoughi, and it was written in 2014. And the paper itself was done in France, all right, in an area called Pecca. This is an area that is to the southeast of France. And this is an area generally that has high organic pharmacies, we might say, because in France, according to the statistics, only around 3% of their land is organic. And in this particular area of southeast of Paca, you find that they have up to 10%. 10% of that area are usually organic farmers. So, that's an interesting area to do your research and try to understand these people. And it's an area that contains up to 80% of biodiversity in France. So you can see this is an area that sort of have an interest of working with nature, right? They have that urge of at least they have that vision of trying to stick together with nature as much as possible. So, before you go there and do your research, you have to have some hypothesis, right? You have to have some reasoning behind it, some backup. You might think, what? I think that organic farmers are happier than conventional farmers, and they try to give some of the reasons to why. And in this paper, the writer tries to do that, and one of the reasons he says, I'm just gonna give you, I'm gonna link this particular paper so that you can read it for yourself into detail. What I'm gonna do is just give you a little bit of highlight on what this science guy had in mind of some of the results that he got, and some of the reasoning that he had for a higher subjective well-being was that organic farmers tend to make their practices coherent with their vision of life. All right. So this is, for example, in terms of using organic technique, right? So most of organic farmers tend to identify themselves with this organic technique. So for example, if it's the habit of not using herbicides, they tend to identify themselves with that particular practice. They see themselves as, people not contributing to poisoning the planet, for example. So from that point of view, from that perspective, there's a reasoning that you have to believe that, I think there's a very, very good chance that more organic farmers will be happier than the conventional farmers, from the fact that they tend to associate themselves with these organic activities. Another reason that he gives in this particular paper on why organic farmers might be happier than conventional farmers is due to the potential status and prestige that stems out from being an organic farmer, especially being pro-environmental. Right now, of course, there is a lot of talk about the environment and what we can do about it. So if an organic farmer is involved in organic farming in the first place, and we do know that organic practices tend to be pro-environment and to see how we can work with the environment, there's a very high chance that farmers associate themselves with being prestigious. All right. They are very bold in terms of being very proud, working with nature and contributing to nature, and making sure that they are very, very close with nature, and they are not in the process, and they are not leading to the destruction of the environment. So some of the couple of questions, some of the hypotheses that he has behind on why farmers, organic farmers especially, might be happier. So how about the data here? We're going to go through quickly some of the data from the paper, because this is one of the things that the critics usually look for and try to discredit something as good as this one. Data itself was collected between April and May of 2011, and the survey was sent to 638 organic farmers and conventional farmers. So out of the results, only 22% of all the respondents that were sent this particular survey were actually returned. And if you look at those numbers, you see that that was 22%, and literally most of the research that is being done in that particular area, on average, the amount of questionnaires that get returned from the farmers is around 19%. So this particular report, this particular research had a 22% return rate of this particular research question, which is very high than the average, indicating that this particular research was highly responsive from the farmers, from the farmers themselves. And out of the 280 responses that were received, 185 of them were organic farmers, while 95 of them were conventional farmers. Very, very low farmers. And just from those responses alone, it can sort of indicate, give you an idea of what's going to happen here, right? How about the variables that this particular researcher used? For example, satisfaction was a dependent variable. So this is the indicator in which other variables were being measured upon. So satisfaction ranged from 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest in terms of satisfaction, and 10, of course, being the fullest in terms of satisfaction were about organic, and they also separated this particular two for those organic farmers who have been organic for a long period of time, and those organic farmers who have recently just converted into organic. He also looked at what is the difference. Is there a difference in terms of level of satisfaction and happiness between farmers who have been organic farmers for a long period of time and they recently converted organic farmers? So he also looked at that particular variable. Looking at the other important variables that he was to look at, one of them was about income. Okay, we generally do know that studies literally have shown that the higher the level of income someone has, the more likely they are going to be satisfied, right? And the more happier they are likely to be. Although there is obviously a cap there, because happiness might increase with income, but it usually increase at a decreasing rate, meaning it reaches to a particular point where income can no longer make someone happier or make someone more satisfied, right? So for example, someone who has 50 billion and someone who has 100 billion, that is literally double the amount of what the other one has. But in terms of happiness, this isn't necessarily going to make the 100 billion guy happier, because there is nothing that the 100 billion guy can be able to have that the 50 billion can't be able to have. So it sort of reaches to a particular equilibrium. So first of all, he did look at the income, the level of income, how satisfied organic farmers and conventional farmers are in terms of the income they get from the particular occupation, that being farming, of course. The second one, he looked at job characteristics. So for example, organic farmers and conventional farmers, how much do they enjoy the work they do? This is also a very, very good indicator of satisfaction and happiness, and how someone is happier or satisfied they are in life. You look at the job description that they have, and how generally happy they are towards that particular job. The third was that variable that he looked at was about health. So we all do know the healthier someone is, the more satisfied and the more happier they're likely to be. So he also looked at that in terms of health between conventional farmers and organic farmers, how healthy they are, and hence how happy they will be or satisfied they will be. And the other key component that he looked at was about the social relations. So for example, how do organic farmers and conventional farmers tend to interact with their neighboring farmers? How are the relationships between organic farmers and conventional farmers with their neighbors? Of course, if you have good relationship between your neighbors, that means there is a more than likely chance that you two guys are going to get along with each other, and that means that you are going to be better satisfied and be happier in the long run as well. All right, so those are some of the variables that he looked at and found very, very interesting, but not so surprising results, I might say, because the first result that he got from this particular research was that there was, in terms of support for the prediction, for the hypothesis that they had, they did see that there was a positive relation between organic farming and life satisfaction. So meaning that more organic farmers who had their responses in, they say that they were more satisfied with life than their conventional counterparts. So the variable organic was positively significant at the 5% level. And the marginal effects did indicate, in fact, that organic farmers were 1.5% points more likely to report that they are fully satisfied with their life. So 1.5% points more than the conventional counterparts in terms of how happy they were with their life. The finding, surprisingly, is also very consistent with other studies that have been done before in terms of arguing that the adoption of environmental friendly practices. So here we're talking about farmers who have in one way or another adopted agroecology, for example, who have adopted permaculture, who have adopted regenerative farming methods, are more likely to be happier than the conventional farmers. So this is not necessarily related to the monetary gains that you get from practicing these practices, but also non-monetary pleasures, such as the pleasure that you get from your ecosystems, and the personal satisfaction that you get just from working within that particular environment. So in terms of income and monthly matters, here also we see that organic farmers were highly satisfied with the kind of income that they were getting. Consider when you're comparing it to their conventional counterparts. However, we do see that income that was above 2,000 was not significant from the income between 1,000 and 2,000. This is an example that I gave you earlier. Certification tend to increase, but it increases up to a certain point. Beyond that point, there isn't really a difference between. There wasn't significant difference between those two. And however, as we look at the profit, the moderate profit is really not that significant from the profit that is higher, that's at 1%. So in other words, only farmers who think that the activity is highly profitable reported relatively higher levels of subjective well-being with the highest margin effects. So they're talking here about 18.5% points more likely to report higher satisfaction in a life situation than others. So regarding the variables of work environment, here we also see that they do have a positive significance at 1% level, in meaning that farmers who are highly satisfied with their work, organic farmers were highly satisfied with their work, and they were at 6.7% points more likely to report that they were fully satisfied with their life. How about the other variable of social recognition? It also found that it was positively related to satisfaction, which they also pointed that this particular result was consistent with the previous literature that they had indicated before in terms of farmers feel happy in their life. It's crucial that they feel happier and recognized in their work. How about health? Farmers who feel healthier than others were found to report higher levels of life satisfaction, but this relationship does not hold for farmers whose health is moderately good, since the variable healthy good is significant. So what he is saying is that remember, for the variable of health, they did have different parameters. So in terms of good health, average health, and bad health, right? So only people who had good health really indicated that they were highly satisfied with their life. But the people who had average health, there wasn't any significant difference of how they were satisfied with their lives as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see here, the science is siding with organic here. It's saying, yes, farmers who are organic generally tend to be more happier and satisfied than their conventional farmers. So if we want to have an abundance of happiness in terms of our farmers and our farming community, the best thing that we can do is, one way or another, suggest, all right, make it easier for farmers to become organic in the if we are to move forward. I mean, we do have a lot of problems that we have control, and we do know how much organic really contributes to these factors, not in terms of only happiness, but in terms of the health of the environment, the health of the soil, the health of the plants, the health of the animals. And now, ladies and gentlemen, organic is significantly contributing to our happiness, all right, to the happiness of the farmers. And that is something I think that we should be able to celebrate for. So moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you continue to share this message of organic and how important it is if we are to have an epidemic. Okay, if we're going to have a pandemic of happiness, maybe we should be able to look towards an organic solution moving forward. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you learned a thing or two. I'm going to link this particular research on the description below so that you can be able to read for yourself and interpret it and get to synthesize this particular report and see what were their recommendation, because they do have a paragraph to some of the recommendation that they have here, because they say, for example, they provided an evidence to show that there was a positive and a significant relationship between being organic and the report of life satisfaction. They also say, in terms of their conclusions and implication, they do say that these findings suggest that at least to some extent farmers may adopt ecologically friendly practices to reach a higher level of satisfaction. I would say, frankly, that farmers should adopt organic practices to reach higher level of personal satisfaction. This is an area that I personally have a strong opinion towards too, as I do have a lot of strong opinions as well. It has to be organic. We cannot just say it has to be ecologically friendly, okay? If we want to empower farmers, if we want farmers to get money for what they do, it has to be organic. That's the only way consumers can be able to differentiate those products in a marketplace. All right, it has to be organic, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we have to insist and say that these particular products have to be organic. So they do lay out a lot of conclusions and implications moving forward. So I just says I highly suggest that you read this particular paper moving forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, till next week, remember to be organic. Bye bye. See you next time. Cheers.